The NFL is back, baby. Week 1, and it's had its fair shares of ups and downs. How did your fantasy teams deliver? Monday's Hangxiety, the cure for your fantasy football hangover that only Mondays can bring. We know you're waking up this morning with a mix of regret, anxiety, and just absolutely wondering what the hell happened to my fantasy team. We got you covered. We have it all covered. And this is why you don't give me control of everything. I just threw up the wrong graphic. It's fine. Josh is laughing in the background. Let's dive in and get through this Hangxiety together.
Nostalgia, baby. I haven't seen that video in weeks.
I am your host, Gator J. I'm here with my dudes, the one Hudsonian, Josh Hudson, and Ryan Weisse at the Fantasy 5 over there on Twitter. Josh, you know what? I've done screwed up enough. I'm going to sit there when you get through this. Let's pay some bills real quick before I screw it up anymore. Go ahead.
Oh, my goodness gracious. I'm just like all over the place. I fucking love this. All right. Yeah, well, let's just start with the Trophy Smack stuff, love this partnership that we have with Women of Fantasy Football and Trophy Smack. You can head over to trophysmack.com/WOFF. That's WOFF. Get yourself a trophy, championship belt, championship ring, some beautiful wall smack to just kind of bask in all your accomplishments. And you know what? The season's off and running. Maybe get your commissioner something nice. They've got little turnover chains. They got rings and flags and all kinds of stuff. So what's really cool right now until September 24th, if you buy a trophy or belt, you can get yourself a free ring. So enter code WOFF, that's WOFF at checkout with one of those purchases and get yourself a free ring. Otherwise, trophysmack.com/WOFF, WOFF.
Sweet. Yeah, I love this new partnership we have going on over there. Ryan, I don't know what you just put in that chat. What are you talking about?
So Josh has week 1 recap, and you didn't do this show last year, and it's not something we actually put in the show sheet, but I just list off all the scores that happened in week 1. So kick to me when we get to that part. Hey, we're all learning together for the new Monday's Hangxiety. So.
Well, you know what's cool is because this is now show 36 of Monday's Hangxiety. Me being the new host, already screwing shit up. It's perfect. I feel like, I fit right in with the rest of the Club Fantasy crew because Joe does it on Wednesdays. I get to fuck up shit on Monday mornings, wake everybody up, get them out of this Monday Hangxiety, this hangover that is. And got a new segment we're going to start off with. We're going to call it the 21st Birthday Shots. Rookies with big games. And welcome to the league.
Normally, we'll read the scores, Jay. So let me knock out the scores.
There's nowhere in here.
I know. That's literally what he just said.
Yeah. So it says week 1 recap. I don't know if Josh meant that just to be the title of the show sheet or if you wanted me to read the scores like we used to, Josh. Where are we standing?
You can read the scores and then we can go.
Okay, let me knock out the scores, Jay, and then we'll go from there. What an absolute mess. But let's talk about week 1 real quick. I know Joe is just absolutely loving this right now. Back on Thursday, the Chiefs won by a toe, 27-20 over the Ravens. I know that broke a lot of hearts. The Eagles take down a win on the Packers in Brazil, 34-29. Jordan Love went down in that game. More on that in just a second. Patriots 16, Bengals 10. Oof. And then equally as ugly, probably Steelers 18, Falcons 10, Steelers with 6 field goals. I think the first time in NFL history is what I read on that when it happened. Vikings just handled the Giants in those terrible throwback jerseys, 28-6. Bears win 24-17 in Caleb Williams' debut. Bills hold on late, 34-28 over the Cardinals. Dolphins survive a early Tyreek Hill arrest, 20-17 over the Jaguars. Texans 29, Colts 27, and very good game in what was not a very good game. Saints 47, Panthers 10. Chargers outlast the Raiders, I guess is the best way to put it, 22-10. Seahawks 26, Broncos 20. Cowboys beat down on the Browns 33-17. Buccaneers, another great NFC South performance, 37-20 over the Commanders. And we get overtime in the first Sunday night football game of the season. Lions 26, Rams 20. That was the week 1 scores as we get ready for Monday Night Football.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to talk here or not.
Now it's all you, Jay. Now it's all the show sheet and you, my guy.
Well, and Joe knows this too because, Wednesday nights, and I always make fun of Joe's like, well, it's not on the show sheet. It's not on the show sheet. And this is on the show sheet, but in the show sheet, it says segments in bold. It's not in bold, and it's way the hell over there.
That's a really good point. I honestly forgot we did it until I saw it on the show sheet, and then I didn't even know if Josh wanted it that way. So what do you know? Here's where we are now.
So I have to apologize to Joe, who is in the chat just roasting us, and I love it. But I get it now, Joe. I fucking get it. Thank you.
This is what happens. This is what happens when you work with me and Josh. Just chaos, plain and simple. That's why we used to be left to our own devices on Monday mornings.
This is why everybody quits on you guys Monday morning. Like, no, I got a hanger. I don't need to deal with this too.
Exactly.
Right, let's get into it. 21st birthday shots, rookies with big games. And we are saying welcome to the league to Xavier Worthy, 2 of 3, 47 yards and a TD, along with 1 rush for 21 and a touchdown. Brian Thomas Jr., a guy that I've been super low on this year, but 4 of 4, 47 yards and a touchdown. Not a great day for Malik Neighbors, but 5 of 7, 66. And there's a comment from Malik Neighbors that was kind of wishy-washy about Daniel Jones. Jaden Daniels, not a bad start going up against the Bucs, 17 of 24, 184. Also had 16 rushing attempts, 2 touchdowns, 88 yards. But the downside was the 3 fumbles. He didn't lose any of them, but he did fumble 3 times, and he lost his helmet twice. Got to get that fixed. Brock Bowers, 6 of 8, 58 yards in a demoralizing loss to the Chargers. I guess it's demoralizing. It's not great. Ladd McConkey for the Chargers, 5 of 7, 39 yards and a TD. And then my guy who I've been propping him up all offseason, Jalen McMillan, 1 of 3, 32 yards and a touchdown. Should have caught about 6 more touchdowns if Baker Mayfield was worth the damn and kept throwing the ball properly. Guys, thoughts on these rookies? Which one stands out to you?
Bowers, to me, he led the team in targets.
I was just going to say, I think we have to talk Brock Bowers, especially after Joe calling us out earlier in the chat saying we wouldn't talk about how bad tight ends are. I think I saw a tweet this morning that only 6 tight ends had 6 or more targets this week, and Brock Bowers is one of them. So having a tight end that much a part of an offense, which the writing was on the wall in a Luke Getsy offense, and the offense sucking was also on the wall. I think the Zamir White not playing well was a bit of a surprise. But back to the actual rookie, led the team in targets, did well with them, didn't find the end zone, but I don't think that's going to be a problem as the season progresses, Josh.
Yeah, there was only 6 of the top 12 drafted tight ends that actually finished in the top 12, but only 5 tight ends scored over 10 fantasy points. Like, really not a great day for tight ends. You definitely could have very well ended up streaming. And I mean, but again, this is just in a nutshell, the tight end position, right? Kyle Pitts, 3 targets. It sucks. But caught all 3 of them.
And scored a touchdown.
And only 26 yards. He was buoyed by the touchdown, right? That's what you're looking for from the tight end position. Why streaming tends to work, unless you're Brian and you put Taysom Hill.
Unless you believe in Taysom Hill for the first time and make it look real bad.
Yeah, it was an, as Caesar says here, it was a weird week 1 for sure, and not just the tight end position for a lot of positions, but remember, everybody, if you are sitting here watching this show today, hit that like, hit that subscribe. We are well on our way to 2,000, and we appreciate it. Only being able to do that with you guys. We've got a good bit of information going out this morning. Remember, if you want your questions answered, you have pressing questions for tonight's game, start sit for tonight, whatever, you can always hit that super chat. That moves you to the top of the line. And you see the little logos next to George and to Joe and Caesar here. If you want to become a member, that also moves you up in line as well. Let's get to this next segment here. Unnecessary shot of rumplements, the key injuries of the week. I know you brought this up a minute ago, but Ryan, I'll let you talk about Jordan Love real quick. What's going on?
Yeah, so I feel like the takes on Jordan Love have been kind of all over the place. It seems 3 to 4 weeks is the worst we're going to run into with Jordan Love, so I'm not overly concerned for the Packers as a team. I read one of the most asinine posts I've ever read today where they were trying to blame Jalen Carter, and it was just a terrible, terrible post. But
he
more
took
importantly,
a screenshot of his Instagram DMs, like all the Packers fans jumping in and calling.
And that's kind of what the post was talking about. But then the post,
serious?
Yeah, and the post was kind of leaning into it. It was all trash. But let's talk about what it really means for the next 3 to 4 weeks with Malik Willis, presumably as the quarterback. Are you going to feel comfortable starting a single Green Bay Packer? And the answer is very obviously no, with the exception of Josh Jacobs.
And even that I wouldn't feel great about.
You're going to feel fine about him as a running back too. You definitely don't know if you're going to want to start him past that. But the long and short is this: 3 to 4 weeks. I got a lot of questions on the Football Guys Discord yesterday about, is Malik Willis a priority waiver wire? No. We know who Malik Willis is. We know how long Malik Willis is going to play. If you want to make sure your league doesn't get him cheap, maybe throw 10% at him in a super flex league, not in a single QB league, but maybe throw 10% at him in a super flex league just to make sure someone else overpays for him would be my recommendation of how to handle this. But you're going to have to stay away from those receivers. Even Jaden Reed, who just balled out. If it's not Jordan Love, do not expect that production. Bench every Green Bay player with the exception of Josh Jacobs. And obviously Josh Hudson doesn't even necessarily agree with that. So
yeah, I really don't. I mean, I saw a stat. I think it was from JJ Zacharyason's data dump that he does now Monday mornings. He was talking about this is only like the 6th time or something that a Green Bay running back has handled over 80% of the running back share in all of LaFleur's coaching career. Like, he's just never used a bell cow in this way. That's why they brought in Josh Jacobs, to be that guy. Now, I understand Marshawn Lloyd was out this week, so that probably played into it. But Emmanuel Wilson looked good in his limited touches too. So, like, they're still going to use Josh Jacobs in this hammer type role. He was featured in the passing game as well. He's going to get these types of runs where I think he can be that sort of very uninspiring RB2, at least.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're agreeing with me.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, it's just, it's going to be, it's Najee Harris last year. That's what it's going to be. That's the easiest way to describe it.
Let me ask you guys this. Diana Rossini put out a post that there's no deal done right now, but the Packers have already reached out to Ryan Tannehill.
Why? Did we not see how cooked he was last year?
I mean, they traded for Malik Willis. Awful. Clearly, they don't care about cooked Tennessee quarterbacks.
Apparently.
Next one on the list, Russell Wilson missed week 1 with a calf injury. I mean, Justin Fields looked okay at times.
He looked terrible.
He looked, listen, there was a couple deep balls that he threw that were perfect that they got BS calls, pass interference against Atlanta on to George Pickens, especially that deep one there. So we're leaving.
When your offense settles for 6 field goals, you're not really doing your job as an NFL quarterback.
Speaking of, I mean, 3 field goals of 50-plus yards is not bad.
It's crazy.
That's even worse. That means you couldn't move the ball down the field.
Jake Ferguson probably going to miss a few weeks. That just broke a few minutes ago with a knee injury. I'm heartbroken over this one because he was one of my guys this year, especially at the tight end position. I know Ryan is not feeling great about this. That hurts.
He was that outside guy who you thought was going to be able to make a run at tight end, and obviously the game wasn't going well for him to begin with. But the game really, until the second half, wasn't going well for most of the Dallas Cowboys offense. So you would have expected bigger things as the Cowboys got their legs under them, so to speak. And so now it's just going to be slowed down. And I just hope this isn't a situation. I love Jake Ferguson, and obviously he's outplayed Luke Schoonemaker in practice. I just hope we don't see Schoonemaker come in and do the exact same thing and essentially Blake Jarwin this entire situation up.
Literally just thinking that.
Yeah.
I remember how high everybody got on Blake Jarwin, and then here it comes.
Me and Linda G were all about Blake fucking Jarwin, and everything went as incredibly wrong as it could. So
Jordan Addison with an ankle. Puka Nacua re-injured his knee from preseason. That's not good. And then David Njoku feared to be a high ankle sprain. Thoughts on any one of those, Josh?
Yeah, the David Njoku high ankle sprain is going to suck because that's just something that's going to linger. I mean, he had 4 for 48, I believe, this past week. Not like the Browns looked like a competent offense by any means, but when you're the most competent piece of an incompetent offense, I guess there's some value in that. So him going out like that, if you're trying to tell me it's Jerry Jeudy season, I'm not going to feel good about it. That's all I'm going to say.
Come on, Jerry Jeudy, let's go.
Fuck Jerry Jeudy.
I'm a Jerry Jeudy guy. I was happy to see that touchdown.
outside of the rest of the running backs, man, Devon A-Chain, hamstring, leg injury, Raheem Mostert, shoulder injury.
So I put potentially on this. So I saw Jeff, is it Mueller, one of those two from DLF and Destination Debbie. He was mentioning these based on some video evidence, and both of these guys came up limping after their respective plays. I know Mostert only played a handful of plays after this. He did mention that Mike McDaniel tends to be a little wishy-washy when it comes to, like, you know, talking more about these types of injuries, especially in post-game interviews and practices and stuff. So I put this here mostly because it's something to monitor. Both of these guys have injury histories. Devon A-Chan's especially missed 6 games last year and left quite a few others early. And, you know, he's only 180 some odd pounds. So, you know, there's something to take from that. But yeah.
Well, there's something else to take from this. Last season, week 1, Devon A-Chan, healthy scratch. Week 2,
Jalen Wright,
5 touchdowns. Week 1 this year, Jalen Wright, healthy scratch. I'm just saying.
And it was week 3 with the 5 touchdowns.
Oh, it was week 3. That's right. Okay.
He only had like 2 touches.
He did okay, 2, so never mind. So I'm not next week, but so week
what
3,
you're saying is, Ryan, I need to know who the Dolphins play in week 3 because
and
it's
get
Jalen Wright
into that lineup, baby. I actually have a league, Josh, you're in this league, where my running back room is so bad, I will be starting Jalen Wright at some point this season. And by some point, I mean week 3 when he goes for 5 touchdowns.
Oh, my Lord. I'm sure there's a couple other injuries that we are missing out on, but that's for there. Let's move over. Let's say hello, good morning to the chat. We got the chat popping off this morning. Cesar is in the chat. Joe, yes, Joe's in the chat as well. Let's see, George in the chat. Take me off the ledge, he says. Fizzle's in the chat. Welcome. Joe, back in the chat. I'd like to apologize about Joe Mixon.
That was Saturday.
Millie is in the chat. Cup is back, baby.
When you asked about the Puka Nacua thing, I was like, not bad for Cooper Cup managers.
Not bad.
21 targets.
He had like a 48% target share or some dumbass number like that. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah. Joe showing me some support. Just insert myself. Reed, I left Reed, Moore, Monty, J-Mo all on the bench this week for fucking Dell. Still won, but man.
Yeah.
Can we all point out really quick how this is what I was telling everybody when they go to these 2 wide receiver sets, Dell is coming off the field.
Yep.
Dell was not being used like that. Now, granted, when you look at the ADOTs for all of the receivers and Stephon Diggs is down at 1.6 while Dell and Nico are well over 10, there's at least some promising info there for Tank Dell, but it's definitely going to be a wait and see approach. And for everybody that said Tank Dell is the wide receiver 1 in the Texans, I am very confident in saying you are wrong in that.
I'm also going to throw out, for as long as we've been doing this show this season, we have been saying Tank Dell is coming off the field in 2 wide receiver sets. So if you've been following us for a while, no offense, I think that was Millie, but probably should not have been depending on Tank Dell in week 1.
No, he's exciting to watch, but his production will be very inconsistent.
Will is in the chat. Let's see. Joe back at me right here. He said, fuck that show sheet. Let's talk about tight end Chris Boswell.
Yeah, Joe is pointing out how every kicker is better than every tight end. It was a kicker week for sure.
Every kicker. We do have a couple questions I did see in here. Gimmis in the chat.
Hey.
Are we streaming Kobe Parkinson while Ferguson is out?
I'm not going to say no. They're going to be a great
matchup.
There's going to be a great amount of options out there. There's going to be some great matchups. If Puka's out as well, Parkinson gets very interesting. He was a guy I was interested in when I saw the kind of money that the Rams gave him. So he is certainly going to be. I won't be surprised when he appears on the list. Is where I'll leave it for right now. So,
Josh, Evans and Amon-Ra, or Evans and Dell?
Evans and Amon-Ra. Yeah, that's an easy
yeah.
one.
This is a weird question to me. It's definitely Evans and it's definitely Amon-Ra. We're not freaking out over 1 week with Amon-Ra St. Brown. So
no,
right,
not at all.
Ryan, Ramondre or Etienne?
It's hard to argue with what we're seeing out of Ramondre, but as the Patriots fan I know and love, Joe Zolo pointed out, that might have been one of only 12 touchdowns that the Patriots are going to score as a team this entire season. So it's going to be matchup based. I understand Tank Bigsby got heavily involved. I still think when it matters, this is Travis Etienne's team. So I will lean Etienne for the time being, but Ramondre is certainly playable in the right matchup.
Etienne is clear and away the receiving back for this tandem. So even if Tank Bigsby really starts to cut into the rushing share of Etienne, which again, it looked very skewed this week. Obviously, it was very much a 50-50 split. When crunch time comes, it's still going to be Etienne. He is that guy. He gets that passing work. I'm not that worried about Bigsby. I think people are making the fumble out to be more than what it was. That was an absolutely perfect peanut punch by Javon Holland.
Oh my God.
That was textbook. Anybody would have fumbled that football.
Put that in a museum.
Yes, that was textbook. That was absolutely gorgeous.
I rewound that like 7 times. It was awesome.
I shared this stat with Josh yesterday, and it was absolutely ugly as hell. But when you looked at the usage out of the backfield for the two of them, both Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne had 12 carries, where Bigsby had like 60 yards and Etienne only had like 40 yards or something like that. It was insane the amount of usage they had, how comparable they were in being used. Etienne or Marvin Harrison Jr., Josh?
Yes, Josh.
Yeah, right. Honestly, probably Etienne. To me, it really just boils down to lineup construction. As we'll get to a little bit later, I'm not that worried about Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, bad week 1. I get it. Week 1's crazy. Usually always is. I will say it's harder to find a really, really good RB1 versus a really, really good wide receiver 1. So for me, I think I'm going to lean Etienne here.
Right, we'll get to this last one, then we'll move on real quick. 6-man PPR, wide receivers. His running backs are Rashad White, Derrick Henry, Devon Achane, and James Cook. Who should he trade away and what targets?
In a 6-man with that running back room, I also have to imagine your wide receiver room is super tight right now. So I don't know that I'm looking to make a move on any of those guys after week 1. If I had to trade one of those 3 guys, I'm trading away Rashad White. I think Derrick Henry's established. I think Devon Achane is a guy who can score from any point on the field. And we saw that James Cook is the Buffalo offense outside of Josh Allen. There's no way I'm taking James Cook out of a starting lineup. As far as who you're going to target, the biggest thing you want to do after week 1 is look at the people who are panicking. I personally believe, I don't think he made the show sheet. I think Mark Andrews is a trade target right now. I think the whole world is freaking out over, if you look at Mark Andrews versus Steve Spagnuolo defenses, this is what they do to him, plain and simple. And I think we're going to see a get right game with Mark Andrews next week. So I think Mark Andrews is a guy we're targeting, and then pick on those wide receiver ones that had those bad days. Amon-Ra St. Brown, another tight end, Evan Ingram. Calvin Ridley didn't have a great day. Look for guys who underperformed in week 1 because everyone was going to underperform in week 1. Throw out an offer on Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, things like that if you find a running back needy team. Again, I don't know that you need to make a move.
PPR league, Ryan. Maybe trading Derrick Henry and using the name recognition isn't a bad idea.
To go get one of those big guys. Absolutely.
Yeah,
if you can trade Derrick Henry for Amon-Ra St. Brown right now, do that all day. So.
Ooh, that's a spicy one there. All right, let's get into that shot of espresso. The performances that got the juices flowing. And Josh, I want you to lead this one off because this is my guy right here. Let's go.
Yeah, I'll give some flowers to Anthony Richardson. We spent all offseason bagging this guy because he can't complete a ton of passes. His arm sucks. And more importantly, his accuracy sucks, not necessarily his arm. We all know he's got a really big arm. 9 for 19. Like, let that soak in for a second. That is less than a 50% completion percentage. That sucks. 212 yards, pretty meh. He did have 2 touchdowns. So 9 completed passes and 2 of them were touchdowns. That's a really good average right there. I get that. But this is, and the rushing upside was great. 6 for 56 and a touchdown. He basically started you with an 11.6 fantasy point floor. That's absolutely fantastic. Here's the fun thing. He was absolutely terrible. Like, on the field, not great. And he was the QB4. This is why everybody spent a top 5-round pick to get Anthony Richardson. Because if he's putting up these types of video game numbers when he's bad, just imagine when he actually figures it out. That first deep ball to Alec Pierce was a fucking rope. That was gorgeous.
I have not seen a ball thrown like that in the NFL in a long time.
And he, like, under pressure, like, it looked fantastic. There's a lot to be worried about. There's a lot to like. I mean, 16.4 ADOT, which was by far the highest among quarterbacks this year or this week. Like, that type of level just really isn't sustainable if you're trying to get better at the quarterback position, because that's basically heave it up and say a prayer. 15.8% of his targets were off, or his throws were off target. That was 6th worst among quarterbacks this week. Like, again, you don't love it, but when he puts up almost 300 yards and 3 total touchdowns in a bad week, like, shit, okay, like, there's promise here, right? He's got to stay healthy. He took a lot of hits, took a lot of sacks. There's going to be some mental errors. There's going to be some basically rookie mistakes, because he basically is that. He only played parts of 4 games last year. So, but again, give the guy his flowers. He was QB4 on the week. Hopefully he gets better.
Like I said, as the biggest Anthony Richardson hater, I'm going to throw out there, I'm worried about injury, and that's it, really. If he's going to play Madden on an NFL football field, I'm all for it, plain and simple. So,
100%. Ryan, who's your top guy?
It's got to be George Pickens. So I've waffled on George Pickens as of late, and what it was. And when I say as of late, 2 seasons ago, I was in, and then I was ready to be out, and then I was back in when Deontay Johnson's left. But the long and short of it is, what we saw from Pickens is exactly what you want to see from a wide receiver 1. 7 targets, he caught 6. That's not a typical George Pickens stat line, because he's normally catching or having ridiculous balls thrown his way, and because he can't separate. We all know how that goes, but caught 6 of 7, which is big for him. He lost a fantasy point on one of the worst play calls in the history. Thank you, Arthur Smith. Just a terrible reverse that he then tried to break out of tackles and ends up losing 10 yards, just enough to make sure he lost a singular fantasy point. But I don't know that there is a more deserving wide receiver in the NFL of a good quarterback right now than George Pickens. I would love to see this kid play, but George Pickens' skill set, I think, is definitely made for Justin Fields' bad ball ability. So I think it's like a weird match made in heaven, where Justin Fields needs a receiver like Pickens, who has an obscene catch radius and dominates contested catches.
Here's the interesting thing. Everybody wants to talk about how great the George Pickens stat line was. He didn't even run the road. He did not even run the most routes among wide receivers on this team. That was Van Jefferson.
I was going to say that was Van Jefferson.
To me, that's the concerning part, right? Like, the production is there, and that's great, but he's not even the guy that's out there, like, running and being like, hey, here, throw it to me, I'm open. Just like you said, like, his skill set fits perfect for Justin Fields. Russell Wilson throws a pretty damn good deep ball as well. So there's going to be a lot of things to like. He had over 14 yards per catch. He had a 40-yard catch this week. Like, there again, everything is there. The touchdown upside is just not going to be there with Justin Fields. It's just not. And that is what you need to be a quality wide receiver in this league. You have to be able to score touchdowns. George Pickens has not been able to score touchdowns over his first 2 years in this league, or even going all the way back to college. So he's got to be in a situation where he can put up these, touchdown numbers, because 6 for 85 looks great. But after a while, you're going to see these 2-3 target games, because it's an Arthur Smith offense. And then you need these touchdowns to help buoy your overall season.
Yeah. 4 touchdowns as a rookie, 5 touchdowns as a sophomore, second-year player. Hopefully he can just score 6 this year, 7 next year.
Don't blame it all on Arthur Smith.
This is all Arthur Smith's fault. This is all Arthur Smith's fault.
This was his revenge game, and he was like, I'm showing Atlanta how to do this.
Yeah.
Josh, who's your next guy?
I'll give some flowers to Sam Darnold. We spent all offseason bagging him. I mean, not a great like fantasy performance, QB 14, but he completed almost 80% of his passes. And the best part, which is truthfully what we need to see as fantasy managers from Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, 4 for 59 and a touchdown. Definitely want to see the yards up on that, but he was the top 15 wide receiver on the week. And Aaron Jones was RB8.
Yeah.
If
Jordan
the
Addison was
studs
involved
in
before
this
the injury.
offense get the football and produce, Sam Darnold is doing his job. I'm not rushing to the waiver wire to get Sam Darnold. He can be a quality, RB2 break glass in case of emergency, QB3 and Superflex, but I want to see the weapons do well. And so far, that's what we see, and it works.
That's what I was saying about him in the offseason for Superflex leagues. As a quarterback 3, which is where you were getting him, with those weapons all day, I'll take that flyer on Sam Darnold.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, granted, this is the Giants. I can unequivocally say the only data point that I trust after week 1, the Panthers and the Giants are the 2 worst teams in football. That's the only thing I feel confident in saying. So I'm not like, I will give him his flowers, but I'm not ready to say, all right, this is the future Sam Darnold here. It was against the fucking Giants. Let's pump the brakes.
That's fair. I mean, they were booing Daniel Jones before he got to the stadium. They were booing Daniel Jones after the stadium, or after he left the stadium. And I think they're still booing him now. I think that's what that rumble is. But Ryan, who's your next guy?
No way I can't talk about Chris Godwin. Definitely, as anybody who's ever watched a Club Fantasy show knows, I buy into coach speak like crazy. So when I heard Cooper Kupp roll for Chris Godwin, I bought all the way in, moved him insanely up my rankings. And while he didn't come away with 21 targets, he did lead the team in targets, caught all 8 balls thrown his way for 83 yards and found the end zone. I loved everything I saw from this Tampa Bay offense. And obviously Washington, not the best defense, but I loved Baker's scramble ability. He made some runs that did not look like Baker Mayfield. That was fun to watch, but he found his guys. Mike Evans, again, looks uncoverable in his 11th year in the league. All praise be to Mike Evans. It would have just been asinine for me to put him here. We all know that every time Mike Evans catches a ball, my pants get a little tighter, but I love seeing Chris Godwin go out there and do what he's doing and really live up to what could end up being a very big target season for him.
Yeah, we talked about it. Moving Chris Godwin back to the slot was going to be gold. I mean, you can say what you want about the Cooper Kupp role and all these types of things, but Chris Godwin is a much, much better receiver out of the slot than he is running from outside. And week 1, prime example.
Yeah, everybody already knows I'm all in on Chris Godwin, being a Bucs fan. So This move was the epitome of we're going to get him the ball. Let's talk one more from you, Josh. What you got?
J.K. Dobbins. I mean, RB4 in the week. Maybe he's the exception, not the rule when it comes to Achilles injuries. I don't know, but 10 rushes, 135 yards, and a touchdown, 3 catches. Like those are great numbers, really, from any running back, let alone one coming back from an Achilles injury. The burst is there, which is good. The long speed, not so much, but maybe that's more conditioning based. I hope that it continues, because if you did take a chance on J.K. Dobbins in like the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th round of your drafts, you got to be feeling really good right now. And my last point on this, RIP Gus Edwards RB1 season.
Dobbins told everybody who would listen, if he stays healthy, it was going to be a good year for him. So I'm with it.
Ryan, you got one more?
Just quickly throwing out, Justice Hill led all running backs and targets this week. John Harbaugh said before the season that he viewed Justice Hill and Derrick Henry as co-starters, and we all thought he was absolutely psychotic because it's Derrick Henry, but there's things that Derrick Henry doesn't do well, and guess what? Those happen to be the things that Justice Hill does very well. This is a trend I expect to see continue for this season.
Josh, I know you got an honorable mention, but I'm going to mention one real quick that I was not high on to start with. I didn't understand the actual draft pick that the Bucs did here, but I got to bring up Bucky Irving. He only had 9 carries, but 60-something yards. Absolutely looked explosive compared to what Rachaad White was doing coming out of the backfield. To me, Rachaad White is definitely going to be the passing back, the receiving back. but Bucky Irvin just looks explosive going through the middle of that line.
Yeah, and Rachaad White is look. Say what you want about the Bucs offense, their offensive line. The yards per carry in this offense have been bad for years.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's kind of what people were hanging their hat on when it came to White. White is just not good between the tackles. He's not built for it. I'm not saying that Bucky Irving is, but he's got a next level gear that I just don't see with Rachaad White. So I'm really curious to see how this really plays out between these two, because they're not much different when it comes to size, but one looks a hell of a lot more explosive than the other. So I'm really curious to see how this plays out. We talk all the time about, your complementary backs are supposed to be more explosive and, more energetic, et cetera, because the lead guy is less efficient. He takes the brunt of the workload and the force of the defense, et cetera. I don't know how this is going to play out, but after week one, I'm liking what I see from Bucky.
Yeah. Who's your honorable mention?
Jameson Williams, wide receiver 4 in the week. I'll keep it quick. Everybody panned this guy, wrote him off for dead all off season. Dan Campbell in the Lions front office said, we want to get Jameson Williams more involved. If there's one coach out there in the NFL whose coach speak I will take to the bank, it is Dan Campbell. When he says he wants to get somebody involved, yes, get them involved. I wasn't expecting a 5 for 120 week and a touchdown, but 9 targets, that's what you want to see. And it had a trickle-down effect to the rest of this offense. There's going to be some boom weeks. There's going to be some bust weeks for JMO, but this is what you ultimately want to see from a guy that you spent basically 2 first-round picks on.
Yeah, it hasn't, he's only played, 5 games his first year, and then
Not
7
even
games last year?
Didn't feel like 5 games his first year.
He caught 1 ball, I think.
Yeah, caught 1 ball on 9 targets.
Yeah, it's insane. Let's get back over here to the chat real quick. Mr. Scampers, Devon Veal, hype was real.
This is like Sean Payton in a nutshell. He finds like the most random ass fucking people and tells us to believe in them. Like, that's really what it is.
I mean, the long and short is, you can't trust anybody in that Broncos offense right now, plain and simple.
Millie might be worth a waiver stash, maybe in a deeper league, but we'll get more of that.
He's still out there in dynasty leagues.
Yeah, right.
Millie, I think Bo Nix is going to get better as the season goes on. Saw some promising things from him. That rush was promising. I didn't see very much else that was promising, but he did run.
Seattle's got a very underrated defense. Their pass defense is really good. Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, it's his first career start. Yep. Take it for what you will. There's some promising things, but as Sean Payton said in the post-game press conference, they couldn't run the ball. You're not going to give any quarterback, let alone a rookie quarterback, a chance if you can't run the football, plain and simple.
And that's against a team that was bad against the run last year, which is concerning for the Broncos.
So. Well, and new system, some new players. Ravens defenses have typically been pretty good against the run. Their new head coach was a former Ravens defensive coordinator. So,
that's something Ryan and I kind of touched on over the weekend too, is if you go back and look at Austin's DFS stuff, he picked on these rookie running backs or rookie quarterbacks a lot throughout his DFS stuff. So you can translate that right into your regular fantasy lineups if you just go check those out on the Club Fantasy YouTube page. Can we all agree from George here? Can we all agree not to panic on Devontae Adams? 6 targets in a negative game script, only getting out targeted by Brock Bowers.
I put that back up real quick. It almost looks like he's saying it's not too early to panic. It almost seems like he's saying to panic on Devontae Adams, but I agree it's too early to panic. This is a rough offense. People do not adapt well to the Luke Getsy offense, plain and simple. If you're panicking on my guy, Gardner Minshew. He is not long for that job, plain and simple. A defensive head coach is not going to allow turnovers, plain and simple.
Yeah, and I mean, Zamir White didn't even look great running the football either.
No, nobody looked great.
When you're trying to play defense or play good defense, you need to be able to run the football. I think there's a lot of things that still need to get worked out with the Raiders offense. I'm not panicking yet on Adams. I mean, 5 for 59, you throw a touchdown to that, it's a solid day. So, I take it for what it is, but I wasn't drafting a ton of Devontae Adams simply because I do not have any trust in that Raiders offense.
Speaking of not trusting, somebody that I have trusted a good bit, Evan Ingram. Thoughts on Evan Ingram? 1 of 4 for 5 yards. Not a great day.
Not at all.
Yeah, 4 targets is rough, and then seeing good things from Brian Thomas Jr. I think is going to cut into that Evan Ingram target share. He was originally my don't panic. When I went and looked more at the game, I took him off that list. I'm not saying to panic. I'm just saying I'm not saying don't panic.
Treading the line a little bit on Evan Ingram, that's for sure. Yeah, I think you can loop Christian Kirk into that conversation too.
Same thing.
4 targets.
I think it's going to be an evenly dispersed offense, which is not great for fantasy. So.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough if you have any of those guys in fantasy. 12-team from Sergio, 12-team PPR with 1 running back, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex, 1 quarterback. Who would you take a look at trading off to and acquiring for this team? Here is his team: Lamar, Olave, McLaurin, Bijan, Etienne, Worthy, Elliott. And then he's got the Bears, Chase Brown, Trey Benson, Cortland Sutton, Jalen Polk, Marco Wilson, or who is that?
Michael
Wilson and Ezekiel Elliott. Marco Wilson.
Gotta be honest, you have a super top heavy lineup. Your bench is rough, so you are not going to be able to trade any bench players at this point in the season. It depends on how much you believe in Xavier Worthy and how much your league mates believe in Chris Olave. Worthy is an interesting trade target. I don't know if I'm looking to rush to move him. Olave is an interesting trade target, but he also is the butt of every joke this week, so I don't think anyone's buying. I'm going to be honest. I think for week 1, you are going to probably need to stand pat.
Yeah, I'm with that sentiment as well. I mean, Chase Brown underperformed. Yep. Sutton had high targets, so maybe you can sell somebody on that if you're trying to package to, get a better wide receiver 1. Maybe you could try to sell high on Michael Wilson after he caught a touchdown this week. I mean, that's really kind of where I'm at. I tend not to do a lot of overreaction type trades unless I see somebody on my team where I'm like, all right, this is somebody that I 100% need to sell high on. Problem is that starting lineup really didn't have any big pops.
I say after week 1, I don't know that I feel great about selling high on any of these guys because we don't know what their role in the offense is. I'm more of a buy low guy this week. So again, the guys who I've been mentioning, Mark Andrews, Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe Evan Ingram, those are guys I'm looking to target. I don't typically sell after week 1. There's nobody after week 1 where I'm like, this is a fluke. This is never happening again.
Yeah. The only guy that I see on this list that I might try to move would be go find the Dallas Cowboy fan that just saw Ezekiel get 10 rushes right there.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So that would be the only move that I could see being made right here. Emma says she loves A-Rich, but she's afraid he'll get hurt if he keeps running. I have this same issue with Jaden Daniels. He took a couple hits yesterday, and
well, especially if he keeps losing his helmet, this man's gonna get murdered.
Joe is finally glad to see you back on to the George Pickens hype train. Been telling you Atlanta, Arthur Smith's Atlanta legend, Jefferson more routes than Pickens. It's insane. The chat is popping off about this whole Pickens versus Drake Drake London.
I saw that.
It's who. Okay, so I just asked the question real quick, and then we'll move on. They're not arguing, but they're having a discussion over who's the better player. Is it Pickens or is it London in your opinion? Let's start with you, Ryan.
I'll hang with Drake London. I don't think Atlanta's as bad as they looked, and that's actually going to come up later in the show. So,
yeah, I would take London personally. I know a lot of people that are smarter than me that said that George Pickens was a higher rated prospect than Drake London coming out, and that most of Pickens' issues were mental. Regardless of the physical aspects, mental is equally as important in my opinion. So, zero issue with sticking with my guns, and that's Drake London.
All right,
I'm more than willing to be wrong on, by the way. I don't have a ton of either.
We'll get to the next segment, and is the hangover, the biggest head scratcher of the week. And I'm actually just going to throw this out here just because it's a stat that I saw this morning, which is absolutely stupid to me. The Saints put up 47 points, and Olave was nowhere to be found. 2 for 2 for 11 yards. Crazy.
We'll get to Olave later.
Yeah. Ryan, who's your head scratcher of the week? Who's your hangover?
I'm just going to be really quick about this one. The Buffalo Bills offense only throwing 2 passes in the first half says a lot to me. I wanted to really like Khalil Shakir, and then I saw he had 3 targets. My guy Keon Coleman had 4 or 5 targets and led the team in targets. All in all, it was an ugly game for this Buffalo offense that is so weird to say when they scored 38 or 34 or however many damn points they scored. But to only throw 2 passes in the first half is concerning to me about what we're going to see when they play a real defense, because Arizona is not a good defense.
Yeah, that game script was really weird, in all honesty. I mean, I wouldn't expect the Joe Brady offense to establish it, with only 2 passing attempts in the first half. But yeah, apparently that's what they wanted to do. But it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about with some of these other offenses, right? Like the, Houston and Green Bay, and we've talked about it with Buffalo. Who the fuck is their wide receiver 1? We don't know. And this game told us quite literally nothing about who is going to be that guy. And I think, we just kind of talked about with the brief Evan Ingram setup, we can throw Jacksonville into that mix as well. Right now, we don't know how the target distribution is going to be. Could very well be somebody different every single game. So that's where relying on some of these data points and game script information is going to be very useful in trying to decipher who is going to be the weekly target earner.
I'm not going to sit here and defend Josh Allen by no means, but I will tell you this. I looked at the weather right before the game. And if you remember a few years ago when Buffalo and New England were playing, where it's I think it was New England only had like 5 pass attempts through the whole game. The weather in Buffalo was a 20-mile-an-hour wind with 29-mile-an-hour gust.
Okay, now, I did miss that.
Now, that being said, I mean, there was no issue with Kyler Murray throwing the ball all over the yard. So there's that.
They definitely threw the ball more than twice in the first half.
Josh, who was your hangover this week?
I mean, it's Terry McLaurin. I mean, we talked about how good of a matchup this was because the Bucs secondary is, pretty iffy at times, but they have a really good pass rush, and that's how you negate a bad back end of a defense. I was, seeing only 4 targets is not great. The wide receiver room as a whole was really bad. Like the top 3 productive players in the passing game for the Commanders, the 2 running backs, and Zach Ertz, which again, not great. Like if I'm the offensive coordinator and I'm looking at my past game numbers and how the defense is playing out, I'm going in at halftime saying, all right, we got to figure out some short screen options to get our best playmakers the football. And instead of getting Terry McLaurin the football, they were getting Luke McCaffrey the football. Yep. Why? Seriously, Cliff Kingsbury, why? What are we doing? 2 receptions for 17 yards is not going to get it done. I understand it's a rookie quarterback. Hopefully, KK looks in the mirror and figures out, all right, if we're going to have a defense hit us with this kind of pass rush in the future, we've got to figure out how to get Terry McLaurin the football because his 4.33 speed can play well when it comes to yards after the catch. So you need to start doing some pick and pop screens or something that gets him the football in space.
All due respect to my good friend Jeff Bell, who said Terry McLaurin is just going to make us all look dumb, isn't he? Not all of us, because some of us have been saying he's a wide receiver 2 at best, and that is who he is. When someone tells you who they are, believe them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what we've been saying for years now. Terry McLaurin's not the wide receiver 1 that we want him to be in fantasy, which is fine. But he can still be a quality wide receiver 2. But he can't do that on 4 targets and 2 catches for 17 yards, plain and simple.
Right.
Yeah, that Bucs defense had Jaden Daniels running all over the place, and they were missing a few players on the defensive line to start the game, and then of course they lost the 2 DBs, with injuries, with a concussion, and then one I believe broke his leg or something. All I saw was in the cast and all, but that's going to be interesting to see how that is, how they. As you put him, KK goes.
I was gonna say Josh out here best friends with Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, I didn't realize y'all were on first initial basis there, Josh. But whatever. Ryan, you got one more to add to this or no?
I hate Mike McCarthy with the fire of 1,000 hells. All offseason, all we hear is that Brandon Aubrey is good from 70, and he drills one from 66. Offsides, our false start call has a chance to hit 71. They send him out and then pull him back to throw a Hail Mary. I hate you, Mike McCarthy. As someone who loves kickers in defense and fantasy football, the worst part of yesterday was Brandon Aubrey not getting to try from 71. Fuck you, Mike McCarthy.
Well, they know he's good from 70. He's not good from 71. That's what
You won't know until he kicks it and tries it, damn it.
Exactly.
Spineless piece of shit.
Marlia said they didn't want to hurt his hamstring. She was watching that whole interaction and saw how mad I was getting. So.
Oh, Lord. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe for us. We do appreciate it. Now, for probably one of my favorite segments, because it's actually in the show title, I get to say the F word. Chill the fuck out. That was merely a blip on the week. Josh, let's start with you.
It's Marvin Harrison. 1 catch, not great. 3 targets, really not great. Sean McDermott, we give him a lot of shit as a head coach. He is still a really good defensive coordinator. They took out their top option. That's really what it boiled down to. He did have a 95% route participation, which is great. He led the Cardinals in routes run. This is merely just a skip. Like you get these types of bad weeks on occasion. It sucks that it was Harrison Jr.'s first game. But hey, you know what? If this serves as a buy opportunity to go get him for cheap, go for it, because Marvin Harrison Jr. is in for a big season.
Ryan?
I have nothing to add to that. I'm not panicking over Marvin Harris. Look at his wide receiver competition. There's nothing to be worried about. And as Jay pointed out, the weather might have played into that more than we gave it a credit to with the routes they may have had designed for the rookie. So
I did see one play from that game where Marvin Harrison was just out there playing in the sand all by himself. Like he was just out there.
So that is the viral play. And then if you look at it from the all 22 film, Kyler Murray was in no position to throw him a ball, though he was wide open. Just the way the play was designed, Kyler Murray was designed out of that play, or Marvin Harrison was designed out of that play. He was left open because they knew he was not going to get the ball on that play. So.
Yeah, it's insane. Ryan, who is your chill the fuck out?
Yeah, Millie's going to be happy to hear this. It's not going to be Pittsburgh every week. I am not hitting the panic button on Kirk Cousins. We know who Kirk Cousins is, and this ain't it. 26 pass attempts ain't it. I think the Falcons were protecting Kirk Cousins. I think we saw good things from him. We saw that Kyle Pitts touchdown. We saw him forcing the ball to Drake London in tight windows. And I cannot tell you how important that is for this Atlanta Falcons offense in general. Drake London has probably never had a ball forced to him in a tight window since he left USC, and the windows are smaller in college, or wider in college to begin with. So the long and short of it is, this is a new offense for all of them because you have a quarterback who's actually playing quarterback. I'm not overly concerned. Last year, season 1 quarterback play was terrible. Me and my brother look at prop bets, and the minimum prop bet for quarterbacks is usually about 175 yards. So last year I looked, in week 1, only 18 quarterbacks threw for 175 yards. In week 2, that jumped up to 28 out of 32 quarterbacks. I think this is a week 1 issue. I think this is a protecting Kirk Cousins issue. I do not think this is going to be a season-long issue. And I think we see a way better Atlanta offense as the season moves forward.
Yeah, he didn't move well. That's my biggest concern, really, with Kirk Cousins.
Barely moved before he tore his Achilles.
and that's fine. But when you're even less, like you're more trepidatious on moving, like that to me is a little concerning. I understand the time frame with Achilles injuries, and he had a different procedure than Aaron Rodgers and J.K. Dobbins did when it came to fixing his Achilles. It's a little worrisome. And the biggest reason why I say that is because that Atlanta offensive line did not look good at all. So,
well, it wouldn't be a club fantasy show if I didn't go and screw something up and skip a segment. So I'll go back now and we'll talk about the migraine. What underwhelming performance is a prelude of what's to come. And since Josh has to call me out in our chat, I'm not going to skip over Josh, and I'm going to go to Ryan.
Well, I'm glad we did go back to this, because one of my favorite points I'm going to make for the entire show was from this section. I need to pick on the Carolina Panthers. This team is ass, plain and simple. I was someone who was defending Bryce Young all preseason. I love Dave Canales being there. I thought this was going to be a turnaround. You cannot have the rookie year that Bryce Young had and then come out and throw an interception on your first pass. The kid needs to get better. The team needs to get better around him, especially that offensive line. He looks hurried and panicked. He was sacked 4 times. He was hit 5 times, but he only completed 43% of his passes, which Josh said he had somehow the second highest ADOT in the NFL in week 1, which is just crazy to me, but they just look bad. However, there are a silver lining when it comes to bad teams, gentlemen. Do you guys know, I'm hoping you didn't look this up, who the number 1 scorer in Scott Fishbowl is right now? It is a man with 0 carries, 0 targets.
It's got to be a returner.
0 catches. Raheem Blackshear had 8 returns for 203 yards, has 40 points in Scott Fishbowl, more than any other quarterback included player in Scott Fishbowl right now. The man did not touch the ball on offense. We have undervalued kick returners. If you are in Scott Fishbowl, check your waiver wire. There is gold in them there hills.
I was going to say DJ Dallas had the first kickoff return with the new kickoff rules.
Still only 37 points below Raheem Blackshears.
That's why. Well, and that's it just boils down to how many returns are you going to get, right? Like it played right into the game script simply because the Saints put up 47 points or whatever it was. So a lot of kickoffs. So, hey, you know what? Good for the returners, but yeah, the Panthers offense right now is not great, and my Deontay Johnson shares are hurting right now. So
mine too. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for getting me on that train.
Yeah, you brought that point about Scott Fishbowl. 3 of the top 10 scorers in Scott Fishbowl were returners. Thanks to our very own Chris Battistow for doing that research for me.
Oh, that's awesome. That.
Yeah. So, Josh, I'll let you talk now about your migraine of the week.
Yeah, Zamir White. I mentioned him a little bit earlier. Only 46 total yards. Very, very little when it came to the passing game. That was all Alexander Mattison, and he had the receiving touchdown, the lone touchdown that the Raiders scored. This is what you are going to expect from Zamir White. He is a hammer, so it's going to be first and second down. If he's not getting 4+ yards per carry, he's going to have a very rough game, plain and simple. He's, at this point, I think, unsafely a top 24 option. Like, I would be looking at him closer towards top 30 at this point. But, again, it's only 1 week, so maybe there's some hope here. But if that passing offense for the Raiders continues to look as suspect as it did, Zamir White's going to have even less opportunities to show that he can be a featured back in the NFL.
Well, the question was posed Thursday at about 7:40 to the Sneaky Girls, to the Sneaky Flex. And they told you then, if you were paying attention, to start Alexander Mattison over Zamir White.
I
so
love that. I love that.
After he caught that touchdown, I immediately texted Wendy. I said, why are these girls smarter than us?
Yeah. I love that so much because I feel duped by Zamir White right now.
Yep. The Twins were not.
Yeah.
They
had that one covered. Josh, you got one more?
Yeah, I mean, it's Blake Corum. He had 0 stats this week. Everybody wanted to anoint him as the guy to take over for Kieran Williams. Kieran Williams had over 90% of the running back work. Now, granted, didn't look all that great doing it. Detroit does have a good defense, so we can chalk it up to that, which is fine. But if Kieran starts to, continue this maybe downward swing of being less productive with his touches, the way that he was very productive last year, we'll get to see some more Blake Corum. But until then, this is all Kieran Williams. So if you have Blake Corum, you need to have a lot of patience. I wouldn't be looking to drop him right now the same way that I wouldn't be looking to drop Jalen Wright because he was a healthy scratch. Just be patient. Still going to be a headache one way or the other.
I think the interesting stat was that Ronnie Rivers was the RB2. The Blake Corum, like you said, no stats, but didn't even get in the game.
They went with the guy they trust. Ronnie Rivers has been there for 3 seasons now, and I think that's something, especially in week 1, where we need to start expecting from NFL head coaches.
Well, and I think the other what the other part of that tells me is that Corum is not ready to
100%.
in pass pro. He's not ready for all of the pass pro. You can't protect my franchise quarterback, then you got to learn yet. I think that's what that comes down to.
Yeah, when you have an elderly citizen as at quarterback, you got to make sure you have guys out there who can protect him.
Right. All right, let's get into tonight's game. Let me just double check real quick. I just want to make sure I'm correct. I know Joe would do this on Wednesday, so I'm going to do it on Monday morning. Boss, am I good to move on? Did I miss anything?
Do we want to kill the chat before we get into Monday Night Football?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thanks, other boss. Cool, other boss. Let's see. We'll start right here. I haven't heard anything else on this. I was looking for a report on it. Josh Allen said the hand is fine, but anything from you guys?
I'm going to be honest. I missed it. Didn't even know it happened, so I'm not the right one. Go find smarter people than me on Twitter.
I was going to say, I remember hearing about it. I think in the broadcast, they said it was his non-throwing hand. And if that's the case, I'm really not that worried. They run a lot of shotgun snaps anyway. So I'm not that worried about it. And let's be real, Josh Allen's a freaking cyborg. Like it's gonna take a meteor hitting Earth to get him out of a freaking game. So I'm not that worried about it.
And Joe, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but Joe needs a huge night tonight, he says, from Brees. Caesar, my dumbass, drafted Chuba. You were probably told to do that by
I forgot to throw that in on my Panthers take. Trade Jonathan Brooks. There is somebody out there who's going to give you something. You want no part of this offense. You need to trade Jonathan Brooks before he plays and they see how bad he is in this offense. I love the guy. I strictly mean redraft, not dynasty. Trade Jonathan Brooks.
See, I'm of a very different mindset. Like I would be trying to buy Jonathan Brooks cheap simply because the offensive line wasn't going to look good right away, despite all the money that they invested in it. By the time Jonathan Brooks comes back, they have the ability to actually build a cohesive unit in front of him with his skill set and talent can actually be the piece maybe that gets this offense moving.
Yeah. If I get the right offer, he's gone, but I get what you're saying.
I mean, there's a very fair chance in 8 weeks I look like a dumbass, but I'm used to that. So
it's not going to take 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Scamper says Blackshear. He didn't get him in SFB, but he added him a week ago in his mirror league.
Hey, there you go.
He will be
Joe, I'm sorry, bud. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Somebody that
did. I know Craig dropped something in here a while back about DK.
Yeah, I saw that one too.
Did I miss one?
Yeah.
It was right when we were pivoting sections.
There we go.
And no, don't.
Yeah. No, we talked about this on Wednesday. DK was one of my downsides. I've been one of the biggest DK Metcalf truthers heading into this season. Look, Pat Surtain is a dog. There's a reason that he was the highest paid cornerback in the NFL for all of about 48 hours. DK was going to struggle in this game. Pat Surtain
was designed for Kenneth Walker to succeed. So
correct. And that's exactly what happened. So
yeah.
And I know Caesar brought this one up too.
Start Kincaid or Bowers next week. He has Josh Allen.
Stick with the stack. You don't need to lean on Bowers quite yet. When Allen started slinging it, his first look was Kincaid more than it wasn't Kincaid. I like Kincaid. So
yeah, I'll lean there as well.
Yeah, I think both of them have tough matchups. The Buffalo is against Miami on Thursday night, and then Vegas at Baltimore Sunday.
Yeah, definitely Dalton Kincaid.
Mr. Scabber says, once again, McVay can't help but use one running back.
Exactly. When people tell you who they are, believe them.
Yep. Yep.
And then a couple on here. Blake is on his taxi squad. Brooks lives in the IR spot for.
I was going to say, leagues with IR spots save Jonathan Brooks, and I think after COVID, every league has IR spots now. So.
Should. At least two, I would think.
I agree.
All right, let's get into the Monday night matchup. We're going to talk a little bit of gambling right here. So, Josh, since you haven't been able to talk or tell anybody what to do today, go ahead and let's talk about one more time the underdog pro we got with.
Oh man, he's like throwing me under the bus here. I love this. Yeah, so we have a great partnership with Underdog as well. So you can sign up using code WOFF. That's WOFF. Claim yourself a free pick. and any first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Once again, use promo code WOFF, WOFF. Get yourself a deposit match up to $1,000.
Just to correct Josh real quick, it's a 50% deposit match. So
correct. That's my bad.
Don't want false advertisement.
Fair enough.
And this is why they put me on this show. I have two bosses, and both of them tell me and themselves what to do. Tonight's Monday night matchup is the Jets at San Francisco. The spread on ESPN Bet right now is San Francisco by 4.5, over under 43.5. I guess let's first of all, should we talk about the favorite props, or should we talk about what we expect to happen in this matchup?
Either one.
I'll start with the matchup. I am nervous about this San Francisco offense, plain and simple. You have Trent Williams, who missed most of camp, coming back. You have Brandon Ayuk, who missed most of camp, coming back. And now you have an injured Christian McCaffrey, which will come up in my prop bet, and a very good Jets defense. I'm taking the Jets and the points in this one.
Yeah, I personally would not be betting on the spread, but I'm more than willing to go the under on 43.5.
I like that too.
Both of these are really good defenses, and I think that's really what you're going to get out of this. Aaron Rodgers coming off the Achilles. They're going to try to lean on Breece Hall. I don't think he's going to have a very good week, truth be told. He was one of my downside picks on Wednesday's show. But again, that just boils down to that defensive front with the 49ers. And really, the issues have been on the offense with San Francisco this offseason, with McCaffrey's injury, Ayuk's holdout, Trent Williams holdout, all that stuff. It hasn't been on the defense. The defense should be just fine. And when you're dealing with a quarterback that is in front of a revamped offensive line, and the quarterback is coming off of a season-ending Achilles injury, this defense should absolutely feast. I would not be surprised if the Jets only score like 16 points in this game.
Yeah, it goes against everything that I do whenever I place bets, because betting on the under is just boring. But I think on this particular game, being Monday night, being out in San Francisco, this is a possible Super Bowl matchup. You're not going to want to show everything all in the first game. Ooh. So I would be on the under as well of 43.5.
I like that.
All right, Josh, what's your favorite prop of the night?
This felt gross because I never talk highly of kickers, but it's a 1.07 times Scorcher pick, and it's Greg Zuerlein, Jets kicker. Higher than 1.5 field goals. I just said I think
all day.
Yeah, I think that the Jets are going to have a lot of incomplete drives, and that's going to lend itself to, I would say, at least 2 field goals by Greg Zuerlein. The weather conditions look good. It's going to be mostly sunny, 79, 80 degrees tonight, so about a 7 mile an hour per hour wind. So nothing really that should damper kicker conditions. I think this is a pretty easy bet to make, in all honesty.
Yeah,
Ryan?
I like that. I like that one a lot. As I mentioned, I'm going to go the opposite route. I also, like Jay, despise picking unders. However, I think 16.5 carries is high for Christian McCaffrey. I won't be surprised if this goes down by game time. I am going to pick the under there. Only 13 running backs have hit 16 carries this week, and none of them are dealing with an Achilles or a calf or an ankle or whatever they are deciding to call Christian McCaffrey's injury right now. I just don't see a situation where they are going to heavily tote the rock in this game. I don't see him hitting that carry number. So as much as I hate unders, I'm throwing the under on Christian McCaffrey's carry number.
Yeah, I got a real quick question for you, Josh, because we've talked about what my prop is. And when you're looking at these numbers, we are definitely looking at underdog when we're talking about these, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I took, and this was yesterday as we were building this out, I took Deebo Samuel's over 11.5 rushing yards. As of this morning, right before the show, that line had already moved to 13.5, and I'm looking at it right now, and it's already up to 14.
3 yards in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And that speaks to my prop too, people.
Yes. Yes. So that's why, it's for me, it's imperative that you get in on these and at least look at what these lines are doing at the beginning of the week and watch the growth of these lines or fate of these lines on how, whether you're going to bet them or whether you're going to set these guys in your fantasy lineup. I think it's very important to look at what Vegas is seeing because they're not there to give you money. I promise you. I
Yeah.
promise. Anybody else got anything else you want to add to these props? No,
Not I.
Not to the props. No,
not to the props. All right. Let's see what else we got going on, guys. We got all the. I think we got all of the chat going on. No discount on Marvin Harrison and Dynasty demands of Olave to first. It's too high.
Yeah.
very, very high.
Everybody's saying good show. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Before you go, let me give you the.
Hang on, Trey had a question.
There's actually something at the bottom of Trey's thing.
How many more weeks until Jameis Winston takes over as a starter? Ryan, I know you have some opinions on Cleveland because you had it in the show sheet and then deleted it.
I saw we were running over on time, so I deleted the show sheet. Deshaun Watson looks confused. He looks pressured on every play. He looks uncomfortable. He looks disinterested. And more importantly, he just threw for 169 yards on 45 pass attempts with a trio of pass catchers because David Njoku got hurt towards the fourth quarter of this game. So you have Amari Cooper, you have Jerry Jeudy, and you have David Njoku, and that's all you're managing for less than 4 yards an attempt. I completely agree. Jameis Winston is the better fit, but I also agree Cleveland cannot make that move. They need Deshaun Watson to get hurt. He will. So I'm going to say 5 weeks.
I think it's probably closer to 10, truthfully. I remember Joe Zolo in the chat earlier was talking about apparently Alex Van Pelt was the secret sauce in the Cleveland offense because Stefanski's play calling was just god awful in this game. I will say that the cheap Jerome Ford touchdown kind of killed some of my start-sit decisions.
Yeah. Made me a little bit of money. My little brother is a Browns fan and tried to talk me out of the Jerome Ford touchdown. I put money on it anyway with a profit booster, so made a little money on that one.
Yeah, this whole Jameis Winston taking over thing, it's like, look, on the surface, it makes all the sense in the world. Cleveland needs to bite the bullet. We
have to let this guy play while he's healthy.
But honestly, I disagree because look at the teams that when they make a bad financial investment, get out from under it as quickly as possible. Look what happened with the Eagles and Carson Wentz. They gave him that big contract. He wasn't living up to it, and they immediately pulled the plug, moved off of it.
Fair.
The Jaguars did the exact same thing when they gave the free agent contract to Nick Foles. They moved off of it. If you cannot admit as an organization that you fucked up, you are setting your organization back even further by drowning in this move, plain and simple. I understand Deshaun Watson's a team captain, but most starting quarterbacks are team captains.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper in that huddle was literally visibly shaking his head. What the fuck are we doing?
I just want to throw one last thing out. Then we'll let Jay get to the intro. But for you two, if Deshaun Watson were to get released, would he even be claimed off of waivers?
Fuck no. Because if he gets released,
you got to take the deal.
Takes that contract.
Exactly.
That's the thing. So there's no team wants anything to do with him unless it's the veteran minimum, a la what the Steelers did with Russell Wilson. Because some team is going to say, well, he was a highly recruited college player. That 2020 season was great, blah, blah, blah. Some team is going to have the ego to say, we have the means to fix this player.
Yeah, that's fair.
I can only think of one team, and I don't even know if the guy that's around anymore, if he's. I don't think Al Davis is there to
like ghost of Al Davis.
Yeah, the ghost of Al Davis.
The ghost of Al Davis. But yeah, this is a bad deal all around, both on and off the field for him.
Yeah.
All right, tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. We have Wiretap with Ryan and Josh, getting you caught up on the waivers and what you should be looking at. Tuesday evening is Trade Block with Dusty Hoove, and the special guest this week is who?
Jack Lucenay.
Okay. That's tomorrow night at 9:00. Then Wednesday, MPI with Joe, Josh, and Ryan, the weekly preview at 8. Following directly after that, the debut show of Cleat Dreams with the WOFF podcast, Renee and Kelly. And then Thursday, 9 a.m., Oh Captain, My Captain, Josh and Austin run through the DFS Showdown preview for Thursday Night Football. Sneaky Flex is at 7:30 p.m. with Wendy and the Sneaky Girls. And like I said a minute ago, They got you on Alexander Madison this past week. Definitely
best advice on Club Fantasy right now.
Absolutely. And then directly after that is the Dynasty After Party with Josh and Marvin Eloquin this week. Oh, a little. I like that. Might have to go and record that one. Then Thursday night, debut of On the Horizon. I don't know if that's happening.
Waiting for confirmation. That's why it's highlighted, Jay.
All right, so we'll hold off on that one. There's a good possibility, or at least a possibility of another show on Thursday night. Jesus, Lord have mercy. How many more shows are we going to add, Josh?
Look,
Friday morning, Ryan.
People want to make content. I'm not going to say no.
Ryan in Austin, Friday morning at 9 a.m. with DFS Cash Game. It is the DFS Academy where they go over the DFS cash games and GPP preview for the week. And if you didn't pay attention to that one last week, you would have known to go up against these rookie quarterbacks.
Plus we called out Josh Allen and Kyler Murray as our favorite 2 quarterback plays of the week. So
yeah, well, I mean, between all the call outs, I mean, we can all get them. Exactly. I mean, you had Baker Mayfield,
Yeah,
you said he was in the kitchen cooking, and I said, well, he's a baker. And then Josh calls me out for being a dad joke. So whatever.
Well, it makes sense. You're both dads. So
true.
That was actually a compliment.
Saturday morning, start sit different day, answering all your weekly start sit questions, getting that taken care of for you. Monday, again, we are back next Monday. Monday's Hangxiety, our recap show. Don't forget, Brit's Waiver Wire is coming out tomorrow morning as well. It'll be released right about the same time as we put as the Wet Wiretap show is going on. Ryan, give out any closing thoughts on week 1 and what the craziness it was.
Don't panic. I mean, that's all I can really say is week 1 is not the whole season, and that's the best way to leave it.
Josh?
Chill the fuck out. That's the whole purpose of this show. We'll tell you when to overreact, I promise. But until then, chill the fuck out.
Chill the fuck out. Yeah, you cannot win your championship in week 1, but you damn sure can lose it. Don't stress. It's not over. We still have plenty of time left to go. For Ryan, for Josh, for myself. Till next week.